I bought bees.
And
beehives, because you have to have a place to put the bees.
So, two different types of hives. Warre
and Langstroth.
So, the Langstroth.
Stroth.
I knew that.
It's like what you see in like a field full of beehives. If you've ever watched Bee Movie and they've got all the little rectangular boxes all lined up in rows, those are Langstroth hives.
If you've never watched Bee Movie, I'm so sorry. Your
Seriously.
life is not as good as it could be. And then the
Warre, they're actually much cuter. They're square, they're smaller, they have little sloped roofs on
If you
them.
lived in Minnesota, it'd be a rough.
A rough? Well, we don't live in Minnesota, so it's a
I
roof.
sometimes say rough.
It is much more bee friendly. It is easier, more hands off for the beekeeper, more natural for the bees as well.
Warre is more hands off.
It is. You don't have to inspect it as much. However, one of the cons to the Warre hive is that when you put on new boxes or supers, you have to pick up all the boxes and put it on underneath, because bees want to build their hives from the top down. So that gives them a new empty box in the bottom to just keep building down, where they put the honey on the bottom and the queen lays the baby bees up top. So there's no mixing of bees and honey, because you don't want baby bees in your honey.
You don't want to be squishing up your baby bumblebee.
Yeah.
So go through what went wrong last time we did bees. So at our other place, less space in this little tiny, it was like what would you call it? Like a draw or a ravine. It wasn't right. It wasn't conducive to having little baby bees.
So
what went wrong?
where you put your beehive matters. You want it facing more east so that they get that direct sunlight from the sun coming up in the morning, and that's kind of their cue to go outside, collect nectar and pollen. If they're facing the wrong direction, they won't get a good head start on the day, so they won't be able to collect as much food. You also want to be blocking them from any harsh winds. So here, those winds come from the north. We want to make sure that they have some sort of windbreak on that side of the hive. What we did wrong is we were newbies. I don't like that word. And
You shouldn't.
we built the hive from scratch. We did not buy a kit. We did not buy a pre-assembled hive.
And
we built one because we thought, how hard is it?
And she bought the most expensive wood.
Whatever. I wanted it to last. Anyway.
Did it last?
It wasn't totally squared. It was really not. It was pretty good, but it wasn't perfect. It wasn't what it should have been. So there were gaps in the corners. The bees had to put a lot of effort into sealing those because they want their space perfect for them and their environment. Also, when we set it on the ground, it wasn't really level.
It seemed like it was
It looked
level.
like it was, but
How are we going to make sure it's perfectly level?
with a level?
Yeah.
I don't know. We're going to make sure it's perfectly level. Or as level as it can be. Because if it's not level, what they do is when they start, they've got these crossbars on the top of each box. And when they build their comb, it's supposed to go straight down, nice, clean lines. And ours were like this.
And so this time, we didn't build the boxes.
We bought pre-assembled, not a kit, but actually all put together, ready to go.
I bet it'll be cheaper.
Oh, heck yeah, it'll be cheaper.
Then when we bought that nice premium oak.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be cheaper. Hey, we learn from our mistakes.
And then the bees. You know what's the crazy thing about bees? They're like, okay, we don't like this situation here. So we're not only going to hijack all of the food, but we're going to leave and then not even leave one drop, not even like half of a little bit of a jar. It was totally dry.
Yeah.
You opened it. So back up just a second. The craziest thing, when we got these bees the first time and we set them, explain how it comes, the little bee.
If you buy a bee package, which is what we buy separate from a nuke, which is a totally different thing. A package is a box with screens on each side and a can of sugar water in it, and there's 3 pounds of bees in there, which is somewhere between 10 and 20,000 bees. It's a lot of bees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you introduce them to this box that's the Warray Hive.
Take the lid off and you take the box and you dump it upside down and shake it really hard and get all the bees out into your beehive.
Okay. And then what was it? How fast, when we went back to look that first time and noticed how much work they had been doing?
There was about, I would say probably at least this much honeycomb on one of the bars and then maybe a little bit more on two others. So they had gotten a good start, and it was 2 days, I think we had checked it.
It was
so much work.
Staggering how fast they were able to get in there and get to work and do what bees do. So talk about for a second how long the queen lives versus how long all of the drones and all of the worker bees live.
Drones, I'm not entirely sure their lifespan. It's not very long because they're not really useful. The queen is already...
Are you saying that men aren't useful?
In the bee world, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Is that the queen has already mated. She has no use for any males. They do not work. They don't leave the hive. They're not the ones who go out and get the pollen and the nectar. They don't do anything. I think drone is a very appropriate name. And then worker bees, females, they go out and do all the work. They get all the food. They bring it in. They put it in the honeycomb. They create the honey. They feed that to the babies so that there's more bees. So they're doing all the work constantly. Drones have a pretty short lifespan. They usually get killed off by the worker bees for just being freeloaders and eating and not doing any work.
Listen up, fellas.
And then worker bees usually, I think it's something like 60 days.
Oh, is it that long?
It's like 30 to 60 days. It's been a while since I've
Lifespan.
looked. It's not that long.
But the queen, get this.
Like 5 years.
5 years?
3 to 5 years on average. It could be longer.
It's the...
Yeah. She's just constantly pumped. All she does all day long is she lays eggs. And while she's laying eggs, the worker bees are feeding her because she doesn't have time to eat. She's just constantly making new babies.
And then talk about when she leaves the hive. What is she doing when she leaves the hive? And how often does that happen?
She will leave the hive if there's a threat, like what happened in our previous hive is that mites and wasps moved in. Wasps. And so, yeah,
you know what?
Useless.
Oh.
So anyway, they will leave if there's a threat, if they feel that their space, their home is not safe. She will leave, and when you see a swarm of bees, that's what it is. She's in the center, and all her family is surrounding her to keep her safe. She will leave if the worker bees decide she's not good enough, she's not doing a good enough job. They will raise up a new queen. So usually it happens in more than one, maybe like 3 or 4 of the cells that have baby bees in it. They will start feeding those particular babies royal jelly, which is a different type of bee food, and that's what creates a queen bee. And of those, there's kind of like a battle to the death, and the one that survives is the new queen, and the other ones either die, they get killed by the surviving queen, or the worker bees will attack and kill the queen that they don't want.
Wow.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Nature is metal. So today we went through and did a little, what is it, a form that you fill out to find out what's the right hive for you. And
I already knew the answer.
She knew the answer. She sent it to me just because I was a little like, maybe the other one, because we didn't have a good experience with the Warray. And I took the little quiz, and it said Warray Hive. So,
because I'm always right.
eBay.
Yeah.
And what did you find on eBay? And what was the cost for that?
So from a couple websites that like specialize in just making beehives, and that's what they do. Warray hives were around $400, like assembled, and that's 2 boxes.
That's expensive honey.
Yeah. So that's 2 boxes, top, bottom, quilt box, everything you need. 2 boxes in a beehive is not much. Then you need to buy more boxes to add to the bottom as the hive grows. 4 is ideal, I think, to have enough space and not be worried that you're going to run out of room. And that's another thing. If bees get overcrowded, they will leave. because there's not enough room in the house. So they'll leave to find a bigger home.
If they get overcrowded, wouldn't they just try to kill each other off and lower the population?
No, they usually just leave.
Okay.
You need a certain number of bees in a hive to sustain them, to be able to make enough food.
60,000, 100,000? How many bees are we talking about in a standard warrior hive?
So that 3-pound box that we were talking about earlier with the 10 to 20,000, they'll probably triple that number in a month. A month or so, maybe. Man,
so they're building because in the warrior hive, there's not a set way to build. There's just a ridge. And what do you do with that ridge?
The top bar.
Mm-hmm. And then you put on that some
wax. So it's kind of like a little V shape. It's a wooden bar that sits across, and the bottom of it is V shape. And on the bottom of that V, you want to put kind of a line of wax, which is a guide. Like, hey, bees, here's your new home. This is where we want you to build. Mm-hmm. And then they'll start building their comb on there, and it should be nice and straight across each of the 8 or 10 bars that you're putting in each box. And that's why they start building the honeycomb so fast, like as soon as they get in there, because they need a place for the queen to start laying the eggs.
Gotcha. Okay, so you spent how much on the warrior hives, and you purchased
on eBay
a warrior hive or two? You purchased two. So first off, before you get in the price, why did you purchase 2 hives?
So last time we purchased 1. We started off with 1 hive, 1 colony. That was it. And it left, and we were left with nothing. If we had started with 2...
It was upsetting, by the way.
It really is.
Because
sad.
I was thinking, they left. Maybe there's some honey, and we can just go and, like, even just chew on the wax. Mm-hmm. Was there wax?
Yeah, there was wax. It was dirty. They didn't care. They weren't cleaning.
Dirty wax.
They just were like, let's get our honey and get the heck out of here.
They bailed.
It was sad.
Hard.
I mean, like, within 3 days, because I had checked on them, and then I went to check on them again. Gone.
They're like, this place is bunk, we out. And they hit the road, and we never checked the rest of the property.
They were
but
probably
it's
there.
Possible that they didn't go that far, but we didn't, we don't know enough right now to go and get them,
capture
and put
the swarm.
them back.
Yeah.
We'd have to, we know some people, and then there's assistance. I know the person that comes to our shop to do pest control, which we don't have any pests because she's pretty good. Spraying and keeping all the little bugs and things out. And I know she does that.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
The Black Widow.
That's her name.
Shout out. Cost.
Oh, of the hive.
2 hives. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and no, the reason why we do 2.
Well, you said that.
No, I wasn't done.
Oh, well, keep going.
If you have 1, it leaves, you have nothing. But also, if you have 2 and one is looking kind of weird and the other one looks kind of good, you can kind of learn the differences between the 2. Mm-hmm. You can see, like, I could have seen this one's going a little crooked, it shouldn't look like that. Oh, these maybe look like they have mites, but this one doesn't. And you can kind of compare the 2, and it's a really great opportunity to learn and figure out what went right, what went wrong, and what you need to change to help the colonies thrive. So this time we're starting with 2, and we got 2 fully assembled, ready to go hives with 4 boxes on the hive. 4 each.
Which is how tall?
This.
So 36 inches?
Sure. I don't know. I didn't even measure.
Precautions that we need to take by putting these hives up. No wind access, facing the east. What are some other things that we have to be cautious about when we're figuring out where on the property we're going to put the hives?
I know there's a list, and I can't remember.
That's
right
okay.
now.
We didn't really prepare for this.
We have like 3 weeks until they get here.
3 weeks for the bees.
And I can do a lot of research in 3 weeks.
Yep. 2 warrior hives that stand about 30 to 40 inches tall, and they need to be on level ground. And we're going to get these little, what do you call it? the starter bee pack, the starter bee kit, the package
Package of bees.
You get 2 of those. We start the Warrior Hive, then we watch them get to work, and we'll document all of that. But when they get to work, that was the most shocking thing I think I've ever seen in nature.
How fast they got started.
Just how fast they. It's like, where did they get all that material to make what they made? It was more weight than they were as a whole colony.
It comes out of their butts.
I know, but they had to go get more.
No, they just produce it out of their glands.
Chickens poop breakfast, and bees barf.
Barf up sweetness.
Barf up candy. Like nature. I love you.
Oh, the 2 hives can't be like right next to each other. They have to be like at least a social distancing space apart, like 6 feet.
Oh, good
or
reference.
More,
yeah.
To
Imagine
make
4
sure that
weeks
they're
ago,
not mixing. Ooh,
you couldn't have said that.
That wouldn't have made sense. The other
3
thing
weeks ago.
is I just love the way like pretty little white hives look. But if you have 2 hives or multiple hives, it's good to have a marking on each one.
Because
they
as
can see it.
Smart as bees are for what they do and how they do things, they're miraculous. If you don't fully understand the nature of a bee colony, it's miraculous. It is so amazing. But the individual bee is dumb.
They are.
They're so dumb. They just make dumb decisions. They'll drown if there's too much water.
Yeah.
So you figuring out a water source,
I
even
think it's
though
because their little feet are too small for surface
and their
tension.
wings are too small to fly.
They don't care about physics.
They defy the law of physics. Even though so the bees can travel miles from here because we do live in a pretty arid region.
Yeah.
We have lilac bushes that we think on the property. Again, we haven't been here on this particular property when it's
summer.
warm. So that's going to be learning the plants that are here that we can't really notice. I know we have a lot of cactus, which is super annoying. And the cactus might flower. I know some of the ball cactuses flower. I don't know what they're called. And then we have the stream, it's pretty rough water in the stream, so I'm not 100% sure if they're going to be able to access that. So we'll have a little bubbler type water feature for the bees. And probably my favorite thing about having bees last time, since we didn't get any honey, was slow-mo videos. Watching these bees, just like... They are little air comedians. Their whole life is just like a dumb, do the thing. So I'm excited to have a lot of slow-mo videos of bees being bees because it's great.
You know my favorite thing that bees do?
I don't.
Festooning.
Okay. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
But for them, anyone listening, why don't you explain that word?
Festooning is where like one will kind of be attached to something that they can hold on to, and then there's like a little chain of bees, like they're holding hands.
Oh.
And it's adorable.
Bees don't have hands.
I said it's like.
Oh, you did.
We could actually rewind this and see if I did say like.
You did.
Okay, I wasn't sure actually. I would
wasn't
rewind that for me.
That wasn't debatable. Okay, then the question is, well, where do you get your bees? You've got a couple of hives coming from some eBay person.
I think in Massachusetts.
Wow.
Oh, they cost $200 each.
Oh, we didn't get to that.
Yeah, like half the price, but twice as much.
Still
hive.
a lot, but
we don't have to buy
box.
the wood and glue and nail it together and have all the like. It's probably not going to be right.
It kind of hurts a little bit that we're not building them, but
you gotta give
here.
it the give and take, and like we can't do everything. We could.
You can.
Yeah, we could.
So the bees. The bees.
Where do we get the bees?
Where? How does that work?
You can buy bees from anywhere, and they'll ship them to you.
Tractor Supply?
Expensive. We looked at Tractor Supply. $200 for a 3-pound box of bees.
Okay. Well, we didn't end up going with Tractor Supply.
No. We have a local bee shop. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Is it
Try it.
Copacos?
Copacos.
Copoco?
Copoco.
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 Is how it is. So anyway, they're local.
Copoco
If
is local. It's not that funny.
If you're gonna buy bees, it's best to buy them
From Capocos.
from where you live. If you live in Georgia, buy bees in Georgia. If you live in Colorado, buy bees in Colorado because they can withstand the climate where you're going to put the bees. So I was looking online at bees and I found bees that were bred in northern Georgia. Well, that's not going to work for us because we have a totally different climate and Georgia bees might not be able to survive a Colorado winter.
Georgia bees would
They
never
don't
be
know.
able to handle at this elevation.
No. So we buy our bees from Colorado.
Good call.
Yeah. And we buy them from Copocos. Copoco.
And how much?
It was $150 for a package of 3 pounds.
So we're getting $300 worth of bees.
Which is like 40,000 bees.
And then $400 including shipping.
Yeah, it's like $550.
For 2 hives.
Yeah.
So already we're in, what's the math on that? $700.
It's like $850.
400 plus 300?
Well, and shipping for the...
Oh, I thought shipping was included. Okay.
No, sorry.
So
my bad. It was like $550.
$150. We already have beekeeping stuff, but if you didn't have beekeeping stuff, what would be the cost for the smoker, for the head guard? Because you don't, in the beginning, you won't be comfortable doing it without PPE or protective equipment. So protective equipment,
Personal
the smoker.
protective equipment.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then all the other little things. So explain what are the things. You've got the smoker.
Smoker, which is really, again, watch bee movie. It's nothing like that, but you'll know what a smoker looks like. It's to calm them down. Really. If you smoke...
It's like getting high.
Yeah, kind of.
I've never gotten high.
I would imagine that's probably what it is. But you light it. It smells like fire. Because it's fire. I know, sorry. Wow. You can make it smell like sweet sort of stuff. There's like different
it's like vaping.
What's the thing that starts a fire? Different kinds of
fire?
No, the flammable stuff that starts anyway. You can have different
flint and steel?
No. Anyway, different stuff you can put in the canister to light on fire to make it smoke. And then you like spray the smoke on the hive. And they'll kind of hunker down. It's a survival kind of mechanism, or
hunker down
whatever.
Is the term.
It's the technical term. Mm-hmm. So they'll start trying to protect and eat honey and like survive because they think, oh, it's a fire, it's a forest fire, because that's their natural instinct. So that's what the smoker does.
They're thinking, this is a forest fire. They're
thinking inwardly, and they're not worried about, hey, there's some giant like taking apart our stuff. They're just like, we got to protect ourselves. So that's what a smoker does, is it keeps them away from you.
And then
the headgear, the typical with the mesh.
That's all you need. You don't need a whole bee suit. Just wear a sweatshirt. And if you're really concerned about it, then just tape with gloves. Just wear leather gloves.
What I like to do is the headgear has like a drawstring elastic thing around the neck, but it never like seals all the way. So there's holes, and I kind of stick my arms through it like that. I do it like that.
Yeah.
And then it wraps it around here. So it's a little bit tighter so the bees can't get up in, because you wouldn't want a bee getting up in there, because if it can't get out and it starts panicking, that's when you're going to get stung. Long sleeves, you don't have to wear full-on gear, like sweatshirt even in the summer. It gets hot, but whatever. And long pants.
And just expect at some point you're going to get stung.
It's not a big deal. Unless you're allergic, then it's a big deal. Then you shouldn't be around bees.
Yeah, I'll carry an epi.
Yeah. Like rain boots, galoshes kind of thing. Something thick that the stinger won't get through. And then for gloves, you're gonna need to use your fingers. Like in detail work sometimes. So I just like those bluey, purpley kind of how do you say that? Nitrile? Nitrile? Mm-hmm. Gloves. I've been reading a lot about those. Bees typically don't really sting through those, even though it's a thin enough material they totally can, but they usually don't because it's a synthetic material, and they're like, I don't know what that is. If you wear leather gloves, they sting those a lot.
Oh.
If one bee stings you,
I know that.
they release
Okay.
a pheromone, and it alerts the rest, like, oh my gosh, do you smell that?
Start dying, boys.
There's danger, there's a threat, we all need to go after this, and you'll get stung
Kamikaze.
more. So if you get stung once, you're probably going to get stung more unless you get the heck out.
And it's part of the initiation. You got to get stung.
I got stung right here.
And you could be like Bear Grylls.
Oh, I didn't get stung like that.
Wouldn't that be something?
Look it up.
So, that's only the protective equipment that you're going to wear. The
That's
smoker,
really all we had.
And then you're going to need sugar, water, things like that to kind of get them going.
You don't really need it much except for in the winter if you take too much
Depends
honey
when you
from
start
them. And in the spring sometimes, if it's kind of a rough winter, then you will feed them a jar or so of a sugar water mixture.
What else
We
you
did
want to?
that.
What else you want to say about bees?
Oh man, just do it. I love
Why?
bees. Bees are great.
So they're fickle, and if you haven't heard the news, it's a struggling situation. Bees die all over, and we live in a super rural area without farmland because we're in the mountains. So our bees are probably a little bit safer. If you live in places with a lot of farmland, you risk all of the different chemicals that can be in the air from managing those crops. I'm no egg guy, but I do know that all of that stuff that's used to promote all of the genetically modified crops today isn't doing any benefit for the pollinators and isn't doing any benefit for the soil. So
The other benefit to having our bees so far away from a largely populated area is, I think, and when I say this, it's really more of a hope, that we are going to have a much smaller risk of them being infected with mites. Infected with mites.
Okay. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to put some warm clothes on,
And we're going to go plan it.
and we're going to go walk outside and talk about possible places before it gets too dark on where we could place this, and then show you around the property just a little bit. All right.
Warm, cold ankles.
I like your sweatshirt.
It's so cozy.
I know.
Wait, there's a pocket within the pocket.
That's my purple sweatshirt she's wearing. Or pink. What is it?
Ooh, look at that.
Ooh, look at that. All right, let's switch this thing around. Okay.
Oh, down here. Wait.
Well, yeah, we're going to look down here for just a second.
Okay.
Maybe I can insert another video from before we had down here. But
I know where the dog pees.
this is she always pees right there.
Don't
So
put the peas there.
this right here, over there, that's a nice range right there. Nice little camping area. And the cabin is down there. And you can't really hear it maybe on the video, but the water is down below a big 200-foot cliff that kind of drops down there. We'll go look at that another day. But for now, let's talk about, we're gonna demo, and then I'm gonna try to use a lot of this wood to build up our chicken coop, our bunny hutch, and possibly where we're gonna put the bees. So this thing is getting blown. I don't know how. I'm gonna tear it down somehow. Probably just a sledgehammer and a whatever. So this area right here is gonna be where the chickens are gonna be. We're gonna fence that in. And then we're gonna build something that's enclosed right here, a little run for them that they'll be able to get outside when we're not around and not get eaten by all the bobcats. Over here.
Muddy.
Is it muddy? So once we tear all this off, and I've got a video where I'm knocking this over into time lapse, but over in this area right there is where we're going to have the alpaca loafing shed, and then fence off the area that goes down there for alpacas. And then this area right here, somewhere in here where it's kind of flat, we're going to put some type of a brace or wind block, because the wind comes from the north. That's the north. And we want the bees to look over to the east so they can wake up and get moving and working in the morning. So here, I mean, right now, what are you thinking? Probable?
Yeah, you just gotta know where you're putting the barn.
Yeah, the barn's gonna pretty much go where we're standing.
So here's the thing
Eventually.
about bees. Another thing about bees. They don't like people messing around with them too much.
What?
I mean, like, you know, like if you're always over here, like, building stuff and moving things around.
Oh, they'll get aggravated.
See it as a threat.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of put them a little bit further away from where you plan on being active a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Well,
The good thing about having them with or very near chickens is that chickens like to eat bugs, and there's quite often a lot of dead bees. So the chickens clean up the dead bees, and then they're eaten.
so in theory, if we put where we're gonna have the yard here for the chickens, if we put a windbreak down here by the truck, because we're gonna leave that open for driving the four-wheeler up and down, getting to the alpacas, we could in theory put something in this area, and that way when the chickens are out, they'll have all this roam right here.
Yeah.
That'll be fenced for when we're home.
But it'll still be facing to the east-ish.
Yeah.
And having something behind them, the tree naturally will act as some sort of break as well.
I agree. Good idea. You know what I am?
Mm-mm.
Cold.